One of the points that I've heard made about the board is that as they're trying to decide reasonable performance or fees, that they should be looking at comparable funds. How do you go about helping a board identify comparable funds to compare to?
Well, peer grouping is the heart of what's called the 15C process, which is when the board sits down and I tell my kids it's like the report card on the fund. And so the question is, who are you compared to, how, and we find there's a lot of debate about the peer group. Not surprisingly, the people who manage the money have very strong views about who is and who is not managing money in a similar style. The size of the fund is an issue because larger funds tend to have lower expenses. There are also debates about whether funds are targeted at the same sort of investor, whether that's a retail investor, an institutional investor, or a retirement plan participant. So there's a lot of nuance to peer grouping. And because people's jobs are on the line, they tend to get very involved in discussions about who is in that comparison group.
Does the board themselves select the peer groups, or do they have influence on selecting the peer groups?
Well, we, as a business, operate a service where we independently select the peer groups. The idea being, just as you can't rate yourself as a driver, you can't really rate yourself as a portfolio manager. And so the board, being independent, would come to an independent third party, such as Morningstar, and ask them to construct a peer group. Obviously, everyone on the advisor side of the business is in some way interested. It's Lake Wobegon. They are not willing to say that anybody is below average. Again, their jobs are on the line, the profitability of the fund is on the line, and when you're dealing with basis points, there are ways that interested parties could cherry pick or shade the process in their favor. So the idea is that by going to a third party, which has no interest in the outcome, you create both a better peer group and better conclusions out of any analytics derived from that peer group.